أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Shab Jummah program, upon which we are also celebrating the Jashn of Eid al-Mubahala. Congratulations to all of you. And inshallah, tonight we will begin with the recitation of Hadith Kisa, followed by Dua Kumail. And inshallah, we'll have some manqabat and the Jashn and the speech, followed by Ziyarat Waritha. For the recitation of Hadith Kisa, I'll invite Brother Ghulam Haider to go ahead and start with the recitation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الله؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، وتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل مع علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وقال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلاتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، فإنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا. ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفر لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. الله صل على
محمد وآل محمد. Shall I request Brother Ahmad Virani to go ahead and start Dua Kumail?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء، وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء، وخضع لها كل شيء، وذل لها كل شيء، وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء، وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء، وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء، وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء، وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء، وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء، وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء، وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس، يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء، اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها، اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك، وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك، وأن توزعني شكرك، وأن تلهمني ذكرك، اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع، أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا، وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا، اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته، وعظم فيما عندك رغبته، اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك، وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك، ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك، اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي بي ساترا، ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته، وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته، وكم من إعثار وقيته، وكم من مكروه دفعته، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي، وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي، وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك، أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاءك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاءك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مقرا مذعنا معترفا. لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري، وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي، يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي. هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته، أو تبعد من أدنيته، أو تشرد من آويته، أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك الصادقة، وبشكرك مادحة، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثه، يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي. فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته؟ فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك. كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. وباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك قضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك وقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حكمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أصررته، وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيته وبفضلك سترته، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلته أو إحسان فضلته أو بر نشرته أو رزق بسطته أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي، يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشتد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرده، ومن كادني فكده، وجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك، وجد لي بجودك واعتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد رحم الله نقرأ الفاتحة
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Ladies and gentlemen, Khawateen wa Hazrat, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for once again joining us on this auspicious occasion of Eid al-Mubahala on the Masjid-e-Ali channel. As always, we hope that you are safe, happy, healthy, and sound during these times, and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that once this pandemic is over, that we can rejoice in our designated centers. The program tonight will be as follows. We will start off with the Urdu poetry to commemorate this auspicious occasion, followed by the lecture by our very own Maulana Rizwan Rizvi. So with that, ek salawat padi ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
پروگرام کا آغاز کرنے کے لیے اگر مولانا اجازت ہو تو 4 مصرے ہیں ملاحظہ فرمائیے آج کے موقع پہ کہ سجی ہے نور کی محفل یہ اہل حق کے لیے سجی ہے نور کی محفل یہ اہل حق کے لیے سرور چاہیے پیمانہ سخن کے لیے سجی ہے نور کی محفل یہ اہل حق کے لیے سرور چاہیے پیمانہ سخن کے لیے تھے اور جنگوں میں شامل نبی کے دوست مگر تھے اور جنگوں میں شامل نبی کے دوست مگر مباہلے کا ہے میدان پنجتن کے لیے صلوات پڑھی علی محمد و آل محمد
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اب میں دعوت دیتا ہوں اس پروگرام کا آغاز کرنے کے لیے جناب جعفر حسین آبی سے کہ وہ آئیں اور نذران عقیدت پیش کریں. صلوات پڑھیے علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. السلام علیکم. آپ سب کو میری طرف سے بہت بہت عید مباہلہ مبارک ہو. ایک بلند تر صلوات. اللہم صلی علی
محمد و آل محمد.
گھر فاطمہ زہرا کا جب شان کا گھر ہے گھر فاطمہ زہرا کا جب شان کا گھر ہے یہ وحی کی منزل ہے یہ قرآن کا گھر ہے اسلام کے ماحول میں ایمان کا گھر ہے مومن کی منافق کی یہ پہچان کا گھر ہے.
بے شک بہت خوب.
کچھ لوگ مرے جاتے ہیں اس رنج و محل میں اس گھر کا جو دروازہ ہے مسجد کے صحن میں،
سبحان اللہ،
اس
جزاک اللہ.
گھر کا جو دروازہ ہے مسجد کے صحن میں ہے، اللہ نے اس گھر کو نبوت سے نوازا،
بے شک.
دنیا میں سے دینوں شریعت سے نوازا، قسمت سے امامت سے ولایت سے نوازا،
بہت خوب.
ہر فرد کو قرآن کی آیت سے نوازا،
سبحان اللہ بھائی.
سانچے میں مشیت کے یہ افراد ڈھلے ہیں،
واہ واہ.
سب چادر تطہیر کے سائے میں پلے ہیں،
جزاک اللہ، بہت خوب جعفر.
سب چادر تطہیر کے سائے میں پلے ہیں، یہ عزم کے فولاد اسی گھر میں ملیں گے،
بے شک.
یہ نور کے اجساد اسی گھر میں ملیں گے، جبریل کے استاد اسی گھر میں ملیں گے،
واہ 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 واہ.
اس سطح کے افراد اسی گھر میں ملیں گے، مخلوق کی بات آخری سرحد نظر آیا،
واہ واہ.
جس فرد کو دیکھا وہ
واہ.
محمد
بے
نظر
شک.
آیا،
واہ 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 واہ.
جس فرد کو دیکھا وہ محمد نظر آیا، اللہ رے عز و شرف بنت رسالات، قندیل حرم شمع شبستان امامات، رحمت جو محمد ہے تو یہ پارہ رحمت، وہ کل نبوت ہے تو یہ جزو نبوت، آسان نہ کہو مارے ختم رسول کو، جو جز کو نہ سمجھا ہو وہ کیا سمجھے گا کل کو،
سبحان اللہ بھائی.
جو جز کو نہ سمجھا ہو وہ کیا سمجھے گا کل کو، گھر فاطمہ زہرا کا عجب شان کا گھر ہے، صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. بہت بہت شکریہ جعفر، بہت بہت خوب. اس سے پہلے کہ میں جناب کامران مہندی کو دعوت دوں، 4 مصرے اور ہیں موقع پہ، ملاحظہ فرمائیے کہ تھی دشمنی کی زد پہ تمام انبیاء کی بات، تھی دشمنی کی زد پہ تمام انبیاء کی بات، بے قدر کر رہے تھے عدو مصطفیٰ کی بات، اور قرآن کی آیتوں کا اثر پڑ رہا تھا مند، قرآن کی آیتوں کا اثر پڑ رہا تھا مند، اولاد مصطفیٰ نے سنبھالی مصطفیٰ کی بات. میں دعوت دیتا ہوں جناب کامران مہندی کو کہ وہ آئیں اور نذرانہ عقیدت پیش کریں. صلوات پڑھیے علی محمد وآل محمد.
اللہم صلی علی محمد
محمد
وآل
وآل
محمد.
محمد.
جناب ظفر عباس ظفر صاحب کا کلام ہے، اس کے چند اشعار پیش کرتا ہوں. ایک
بسم اللہ.
مرتبہ بابا سے بلند صلوات پڑھ دیں.
اللہم صلی علی
اللہم صلی علی محمد
وآل
وآل محمد.
تھا جن میں نور کا رشتہ وہ رشتہ دار آئے،
بہت خوب.
تھا جن میں نور کا رشتہ وہ رشتے دار آئے مباہلے کے لیے، 5 ذی وقار آئے، جو دوسرے کوئی ہوتے تو مار کھا جاتے، یہ پنجتن تھے جو نجرانیوں کو مار آئے۔
واہ واہ واہ، بہت خوب۔
یہ پنجتن تھے جو نجرانیوں کو مار آئے، عجیب شان سے دستے رسول اکرم پر، عجیب شان سے دستے رسول اکرم پر، غدیر خم میں ولایت کے تاجدار آئے، غدیر خم میں ولایت کے تاجدار آئے، نبی غدیر میں شاید یہ کر رہے ہوں دعا، نبی غدیر میں شاید یہ کر رہے ہوں دعا، تھا مدتوں سے جس آیت کا انتظار آئے،
جزاک اللہ، بہت اچھا۔
تھا مدتوں سے جس آیت کا انتظار آئے، سنا یہ ہے کہ زیارت علی کی ہوتی ہے، سنا یہ ہے کہ زیارت علی کی ہوتی ہے، وہ وقت موت ہے یا رب تو بار بار آئے،
سبحان اللہ،
وہ وقت موت ہے یا رب تو بار بار آئے، ظفر یہ منکر حیدر سے کہہ دو رخ پہ تیرے، ظفر یہ منکر حیدر سے کہہ دو رخ پہ تیرے، علی کا ذکر کیا ہو تو کچھ بہار آئے،
بہت خوب، نعرہ حیدری یا علی،
علی کا ذکر کیا ہو تو کچھ بہار آئے، تھا جن میں نور کا رشتہ وہ رشتے دار آئے، मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ले अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। बहुत बहुत खूब जनाब कामरान मेहदी साहब। इससे पहले कि मैं मौलाना रिजवान रिजवी को दावत दूं, 4 मिसरे और हैं। मुलाहिज़ा फरमाइए कि मुबाहिले में तारुफ हुआ है बच्चों का, मुबाहिले में तारुफ हुआ है बच्चों का, ये इंतज़ाम मशीयत था मुस्तफ़ा के लिए। मुबाहिले में तारुफ हुआ है बच्चों का, ये इंतज़ाम मशीयत था मुस्तफ़ा के लिए। शिकस्त मान ली इनकार करने वालों ने, शिकस्त मान ली इनकार करने वालों ने, अभी तो हाथ उठे थे ना बद्दुआ के लिए। अब मैं मौलाना रिजवान रिजवी जो बहुत हर दिल अजीज हैं से दरख्वास्त गुजार हूँ कि अब मुबाहिले के जश्न से खिताब फरमाएं। I now request our very own Maulana Rizwan Rizvi to share a few words on the celebration of Eid al-Mubahala. Please welcome him with a very warm salawat ala Muhammad wa ale Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ale Muhammad.
Thank you very much for that beautiful recitation, Jafar Bhai, Kamran Bhai, and as always Salman, for conducting the program. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept these endeavors from all of you. Before I begin, I just have a quick announcement, and inshallah there's a request for dua sahat for brother who's admitted in the hospital, brother Zamir, and as well as all of those people who have requested for dua sahat. Let's remember them with the recitation of dua from Surah Naml together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amman yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. 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 Amman yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su' wa yaj'alukum khulafa al-ard. Ilahum ma'allah qalilan ma tadhakkarun. Also, there's a request for Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Kulsum Bibi Binte Marhum Syed Akbar Hussain, as well as all of your own deceased relatives and loved ones. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وصلى على محمد وآل محمد. Also, inshallah, you will be receiving a detailed email in the coming days in regards to the upcoming Muharram al-Haram 1442 Hijri. Inshallah, because this is the last Shab Jummah program, from next Thursday, inshallah, the majalis for Ayyam Aza will begin. So just wanted to give a short announcement in reference to the scheduling of the majalis, but the detailed email, inshallah, will go out in the next couple of days. Muharram majalis, inshallah, will start from next Thursday night, August 20th, and the programs will be live streamed. So we do not have in-person majalis at Masjid-e-Ali this year due to COVID-19 and the given situations. So hopefully, while this is a difficult phase for all of us, and Muharram al-Haram and the majalis are dear to us, and this is the time when we pay our tribute to the greatest sacrifice of Sayyid al-Shuhada and his companions in the plains of Karbala. But because of the pandemic situation, there is no reason that we cannot offer the majalis in the same spirit. I think a lot of time while in the masajid and Imam Barga, although it shows people coming together, but because of the situation, you should not take it for granted. In fact, you should have more opportunity to be able to present or to be able to be present in attending these majalis. Reciting dua or reciting ziyarat or ziyarat-e-warith or ziyarat-e-ashura of Sayyid al-Shuhada inside the haram of Imam Hussain definitely has a lot of merits. But we recite it on every Thursday night from here, North America, from our countries, from our cities, from our states. So indeed, that also has sawab. Attending majalis, inside the masjid and Imam Barga of the Muharram al-Haram definitely has its merits. But in the given situation when we cannot, if we do it online, it still has the same reward and thawab, and you can still pay same tribute. But of course, you'll have to prepare yourself. There's an environment and the atmosphere of the masjid and the imam bargas when you attend the majlis, which will be lacking in your houses. So I would urge all of you to make an effort to dedicate a room, maybe if you don't have one, or in the living area, wherever you have television set, create an atmosphere environment of majlis, with maybe black clothes, or some of these flags that we have, so that it looks like you're attending a majlis. Maybe have your immediate family with you together. Maybe a couple of families together could watch and be part of this live streaming. So very quickly, I want to make the announcement. Inshallah, in the coming nights, you will have the email with details as well. As I mentioned, next Thursday, August 20th, the programs will start. We will have the two majalis in English as well as in Urdu. The English majalis will be addressed by Hujjat al-Islam wal-Muslim Sheikh Mustafa Akhund from Karbala. He will be speaking from Karbala. So we have, inshallah, some arrangements of having the dua done inside the Haram of Imam Hussein, inshallah, working on that as well. So the program, English program, will begin at 7 p.m. with the brief recitation of Quran and Hadith Qissa, followed by the lecture by Sheikh Mustafa Akhund. And then the Urdu program will begin at 8:30 with Soz Salam Marthia, followed by the lecture from Maulana Sheikh Amir Mukhtar Faizi, who will be visiting us from Chicago. So the majlis, inshallah, for the Urdu program will be taking place inside the Masjid Hall. But again, public will not be permitted to come due to the reasons. So just wanted to announce that, inshallah, next Thursday, the Muharram al-Haram and Ayyam Azza and the Majalis of Ayyam Azza, inshallah, will start at Masjid-e-Ali. With that, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فمن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, greetings and felicitations on this very auspicious occasion upon which we are celebrating Eid al-Mubahala, one of the last of Eids marking the Islamic calendar, one of the major ayad and the festivals and the festivities of our Islamic culture and our deen and our madhab, one of the greatest victories of Islam over any other religion. The verse that I recited is from chapter number 3, Surah Al-Imran, ayat number 61. A very famous ayat which was actually revealed on this occasion of Mubahala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, but whoever disputes with you in this matter after what has come to you of knowledge, then say, come, let us call our children and you call your children, our women and your women, our souls and your souls, and let us be earnest in prayer and invoke the curse of Allah on the liars and imprecation on those who are the liars. So with this ayat from Surah Al-Imran, ayat number 61, we find the greatest or the greatness of Islam and the expiration of Christianity were marked by the event of Mubahala. the Prophet's Mubahala with the Christians of Najran in the either 9th or 10th year after Hijrah, and their defeat and submission to the legitimacy of Islam is a sign of the greatness of Islam and is the finality of his religion, of this religion of Islam, and the expiry of all of the previous religions that came before. That is the reason we consider Islam to be mukammil, the completion of the previous religions. And that's why when the ayat al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum were revealed, it did not come to nullify the previous religions. Rather, it came to complete the previous religions. That yes, the adherers, those who are the followers of the previous religions, it is an open invitation for them that haqq has come to you. This is the completion of this religion of yours that was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the apostles of Allah that came to you with the scriptures. This is the completion and the most complete format that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to obey. When you notice the meaning of the word mubahala, the word mubahala is that when two people or two groups, after debating and arguing against each other, do not reach any sort of conclusion that is acceptable to the parties, and each claim that the other party is deliberately concealing the right, and that's what was happening at that time, then to substantiate their claim, they give the issue over to God. And that's what the word mubahala means. That means when they're unable to come to some sort of conclusion themselves after having argument and debate, then they leave the matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him to decide. And each party and each of these parties asks God that if the other deliberately lies in his or her claim and conceals the right, immediately the retribution will come to him so that the truth could be clarified. It is the belief of the divine religions, not just Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, that in such cases, God will respond immediately to issue an ultimatum for the people. And this has happened many times in the days of the past prophets, and their opponents were doomed with divine miracles. The stories of past prophets and the torment of the deniers of the Ummah exist in Quran and the books of Old and the New Testament. But in the 23-year-old history of the Holy Prophet, Mubahala happened only once. Now there's a similar event where, the person had questioned the Holy Prophet in reference to his announcement of the successorship of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen on the event of Ghadir. That person who had requested or who had asked and questioned the Holy Prophet that it was for him or from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he disagreed with the Holy Prophet, then adhab of Ilahi will come upon him. And people were witness that the adhab came upon that person right away. But in the 23-year-old history of the Prophet, Mubahala happened only once, and that happened with the Christians of Najran. Now this brings me to Najran. What is Najran? Najran is a person's name. He was the initiator of promoting a territory 4,000 years old in the north part of the present-day Yemen, which is about, 800 some kilometers south of the city of Makkatul Mukarramah. This area had 73 villages at that time of the emergence of Islam and was regarded as a major trading market for Yemen, Hijaz, Sham, Iran, and Rome. With the proclamation of Prophet Jesus's prophecy, the Najranis believed in him, and because of its position, Najran gradually became one of the most important bases of Christianity in the world. After the spread of Islam, that vast region was officially the center of a religious state. Its heart, or these people who were the head of this territory, they were famous people who actually did interact with the Holy Prophet when this whole event took place. So its head was Archbishop Hassan ibn Alqamah, and two other bishops named Syed and Aqib were in charge of all of the affairs of Najran. The ever-growing greatness of Islam, similar to what Abraha tried to do, and the year the Holy Prophet was born, the year known as Amul Fil, that he could not withstand the popularity of the city of Mecca. How before Islam, it was Mecca. Mecca was Mecca, where people were visiting from all different places, annual visits were done, as it is done in the form of pilgrimage and Hajj now with the advent of Islam. But even before that, people would make their way to Makkah, and when, of course, people would come, they would buy, they would trade, they would sell, and this was something which was keeping the economy going. So this was something which was affecting people in Yemen, and therefore Abraha, he wanted to just go ahead and destroy Mecca so that people will come instead to Yemen. But of course, we know what happened to that. Similarly, over here, the ever-growing greatness of Islam had caused them discomfort, and in distress, they waited every moment for a message from the Prophet of Islam until at the end of 9th year after Hijrah. The divine command to invite the people of Najran to Islam was sent to the Holy Prophet. The Prophet sent them a letter inviting them to Islam. Upon reaching the letter, the Archbishop, for his decision, first consulted with the 3 first-rate counselors, and then with the general Christian public in the cathedral. He put it forward in front of them that this is the letter we have received. You all have heard about Prophet Muhammad and the ever-growing the religion of Islam. What should we do? They themselves knew the Prophet well. It is something which was evident to them. That's why if anyone should have believed in this religion and in this Prophet, it should have been those who were the followers of the previous scriptures and the followers of the previous religion. Because in their books, this coming prophet was mentioned. In their book, it was laid out for them that who will be the last of the messengers. It was announced for them. This announcement was there for them. So they should have been prepared for it. But how difficult it is to, let go of your adab and your culture and your habits and your, following for something that you have been doing for all these years, and to sort of say that, those things that we were doing were not right, were not correct, and now we have to go ahead and follow someone else. So they knew themselves that Prophet was announced in the previous scriptures in light of the evidences in their scriptures about the coming of the Holy Prophet after Jesus. But we're certain that if they accepted the right, they would end their religious and economic life willfully. That was the main struggle over here. So hence much of their focus was on the war with Islam, until a Christian scholar named Harisa, he proposed converting to Islam, provided that the Prophet was the one who was evangelized in their books. And there was a lot of discussion until they decided to bring a collection of scriptures called Jami'a and Zajira that scrutinized them thoroughly. After studying all these books, they became convinced that in 5 parts of these books, the name of Prophet after Jesus is Muhammad and Ahmad. This was their conclusion. And his descendants are said to be from his daughter, Fatima, his son-in-law, Ali, and God gives them 2 grandchildren, named Hassan and Hussein, and the imams from the descendants of Hussein, these are mentioned. So this was something which was already with them. With this matching, and they tried to, go ahead and compare this, what they found in their scriptures with what was already present. With this matching, the proposal of war went out of their minds. So look, we cannot go to war with them. Why? Because all of this stuff is in our books. And the Archbishop, Hasin ibn Alqama, and Syed and Aqib, they, along with 88 other people, were, decided to go to Medina to see the Holy Prophet and further research. And so therefore, they quickly prepared themselves and they departed for the city of Medina. After the first meeting with the 88 people in Medina, and before any discussion, Prophet Muhammad suggested that they ask people in the city about him for 3 days. You're coming to see someone who's calling himself to be a prophet. Although your books match the description, but still, go out and ask the people about me for 3 days and return on the 4th day. They accepted. On the 4th day, they spoke to the Prophet, and the Prophet spoke about the good news of his coming, which was in the books of Jami'a and Zajira. These were the books that they had. And they accepted everything except the fact that Jesus was not the Son of God. They were firm in their belief of Trinity and firm in their belief of Jesus being the Son of God, and said that they were ready to do Mubahala with the Prophet about this particular issue. Thus, the ayat which was revealed, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ, this fihe, this lamir of ha, this pronoun, which has to refer to someone. You know, when you're speaking, even in English, you say something and then you refer to something as it, or someone as he or she. That he, she, or it should be known. So here you look at this ayat that begins, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ. Who is this fihe? When they do ihtajaj, or when they quarrel and debate with you regarding him. Regarding who? Regarding Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's where the ayat was revealed about it. So Prophet said, fine, you want to go to Mubahala? He accepted it right away without any delay. This, you know, they feared his speed of accepting and, you know, without delaying in responding to it. So the next day, to consult one another, they said, you know, we'll speak to our heads and then we'll get back to you. The Prophet ordered to prepare a place next to the Baqi cemetery. In the morning, the group of Najranis, they arrived first. They were saying to themselves that we should see with whom the Holy Prophet will come. You know, it wasn't just the Najranis who were thinking that who will Prophet bring with him. In fact, all of the Muslims, the Ansar and Muhajirin, they were also thinking, who is Prophet going to take as the misdaq and the manifestation of abna, nisa, and anfus? Prophet does not have any children. If he does, if Ibrahim was alive from Maria Qibtiyah, he was probably an infant. So Prophet does not have his own sons, that is for sure, even though our brothers in Islam, they debate with having other daughters, but at least they don't debate with having other sons. So Prophet had 3 sons, but they all died in their infancy. Last of whom was Ibrahim, who was, you know, the son of Maria Qibtiyah. So with that said, they right away, you know, not just the Najranis, even the Muslims were debating and they were questioning as to who would this person be and who would be the misdaq of the sons of the Holy Prophet. Because the word came abna, which is the plural. So you have in Arabic ibn, which is a son. You have, you know, ibnan, which is the 2 sons. And then you have abna, which refers to 3 or more. So the ayat is saying what? Bring your sons and we'll bring our sons. So not just the Najranis, but even the Muslims in Medina, they are saying, who's Prophet going to take as far as his sons are concerned? And then when it came to Nisa, now people had an idea. Prophet had Salma, and Prophet had other you know, wives of you know, the caliphs that he had married. So his other wives were there. And so people had an idea that he would bring one of his wife, or maybe some of his wives along with him, because the ayah says, Nisa'ana wa nisa'akum. And even bring his daughter, or, you know, other female members of the family. And then there was also a question as to who is going to be the Nafs Rasul. So all of these questions are in their minds. The unfortunate part is that this event took place. Everybody saw with their eyes who are the misdaq of the sons and the women and the nafs of the Holy Prophet, yet still people have doubts even up until this point. So, you know, Prophet brings who? The 2 sons, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Prophet brings, you know, Nisa. Amongst the mistaq of Nisa is Janab Fatmatul Zahra salamullahi alayha. Because in Quran, whenever the word abna has appeared and the Nisa comes after it, refers to daughter. For example, on 3 different occasions, say yudabbihuna or yaqtuluna, yudabbihuna abna'ahum wa yastahyuna nisa'ahum. That in the time of Pharaoh, they would kill the sons and they would let the daughters live. You know, when Islam came, or in Arabia, it was a little bit different. They would keep the sons and they would kill the daughters, right? Whenever بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. But in the time of Pharaoh, Quran mentions in 3 times that يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبْنَا وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاء. They would kill or slaughter the sons because Fir'aun was fearful of that, but he would let the daughters live. So whenever the word abna has appeared in Quran in reference to this, right after that, the word nisa refers to the daughter. It was easy for them to figure that part out. So Prophet of Islam brings his daughter. So they were saying to themselves, we should see with whom the Prophet will come. If he comes with the population of 70,000 people in Medina, he has the intention of showing his retinue, his, people who are along with him, his army, then he's trying to win this by force. But if he comes with his family, then no, we will not go and engage with him in Mubahala. Suddenly they saw a scene which stunned them. They saw the Prophet coming forward with dignity. His son-in-law, his cousin Ali, a step behind. And and right in between the two, his daughter, the women and the lady of the two worlds, and both worlds, Zahra salamullahi alayha. And the two boys, one in the arms of the Holy Prophet and the other one holding on to the finger of the Holy Prophet. They saw this scene and they were stunned by it. They were terrified by the dignified movement of this group of 5 people. The Prophet entered the place, sat down, the others ringed around him. The Prophet propelled the Yemeni cloak, the Aba, on his head, and the others as well. All extended their hands to the heavens. Najranis were so stunned that they didn't realize that, they were shaking for a while. From the state of horror, they saw themselves and they felt the effects of God's torment had been manifested. That's what happens, right? When you are unable to reach some sort of agreement, then you leave the matter to God. Their elders looked at each other. They had no doubt that if they put, or the Prophet uttered the curse, this la'anatullah al-kadhibin, that word, if the imprecation was done, there would be no trace of Christianity and the torment was inevitable. Their elder dragged himself trembling to the Prophet and announced his renunciation of Mubahala and expressed his readiness to accept whatever the Prophet might say. The people of Medina, who had gathered around the spot from a while back, became so happy with the victory of Islam and the breakdown of Christianity, they hugged each other. The Prophet said that he would send his representative the next day to tell him with his conditions. The next day, the Prophet got Ali ibn Abi Talib to arrange a contract according to which the Najran Christians, in return for the security they had thanks to Islam, each year paid 2,000 hullas. Each hulla was roughly about 40 dirhams, one piece of cloth for an article of clothing, as jizya, taxation, as well as the payment of 30 armors and spears, 30 horses, and 30 camels. This was the contract that was signed, and in return, they would be provided immunity and security by the Muslim guards. So this was just the background of the story of the people of Najran as to how they came and how they indulged into this Mubahala. The ayat had room for children, but Prophet showed that my daughter's kids are my children. And you find that on numerous occasions, Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned that as well, that whenever he said to Hazrat Abbas, he said, "Oh Abbas, beware that you are my son and Hussein is the son of the Holy Prophet." So keep that in mind. So Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen reminded his kids as well that Hassan and Hussein are the sons of the Holy Prophet. So therefore we find, whenever the word nafs is used in Quran, nafs sometimes refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. He refers to the word nafs as himself. Yuhadhdhirukumullahu nafsan, that Allah himself warns people. Sometimes it is refers to the nafs of insan, kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. And therefore we find that sometimes people call other people to be their nafs. For example, a teacher who would have, some students who are great in personification and the perfect example of the teacher, refer to as, it is as if, this person is my nafs. So the only person who would fit this criteria was the Zat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, to be the nafs of the Holy Prophet. And that's why whenever we have this discussion, that if the Holy Prophet is afdal to all of the Anbiya, then definitely the one who's the nafs of the Holy Prophet. This is one of the biggest dalail of that. And then the word nabtahil, which means to, engage into this conversation. And then la'anat. La'anat, the word is literally means ibta'id an al-rahmah. So there is a difference between the word la'an and sab. Rasul Akram and his Aimai Athar, in their entire life, they never did sab or shitam. Therefore, sab is something which is haram in Islam, to curse. But it is different than la'an, because even Allah sends la'anat on shaitan. And here the word la'anatullahi al-kadhibin is uttered by the Holy Prophet as well. So the word la'an is different than the word sab in Arabic. La'an means ibta'id an al-rahmah, to be away from the rahmat and the mercy. That Allah take the mercy away from such an individual. While curse or sab or shitam is to utter, these words which are not permissible. So we find that ma'asumin would never utter these words. Therefore, all of these ziyarat where we have la'anallahu, for example, those who did dhulm, la'anallahu, those who were liars, it is mentioning that may Allah's mercy be away from them. And that is the biggest punishment for an individual, when we request Allah to remove his mercy from them. We find that this event takes place either in the 9th or the 10th year after Hijrah, in the month of Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah is the last month in the Islamic calendar, and it's one of the holiest months. First of Dhul Hijjah, we celebrated the marriage of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Bibi Fatima salamullahi alayha, and it also marks the day of the birth of Hazrat Ibrahim. 9th and the 10th, we celebrated with day of Arafah, and as well as Eid al-Adha. The 15th was the wiladat of our 10th Imam, Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salatu wasalam. We celebrated that as well. And on the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, which marks the greatest of the Eid, Eid al-Ghadir, when the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib was announced and the revelation of ayat of wilayat took place, we celebrated that Jashn as well. And then on the 24th day of Dhul Hijjah, Surah Hal Ata or Surah Insan, Surah Dahr was revealed for Ahlul Bayt, as well as Eid al-Mubahala has taken place. So with that, little background of what took place. One of the things that these people debated the Holy Prophet and they were not coming in line was, they agreed with everything, but they would not agree on one fact, and that was what? That was belief that Jesus is not the Son of God. They said, no, we believe that Jesus is the Son of God. And therefore, in the original Christianity, this did not exist. This was a claim which was later on added, as you know, after the Hazrat Isa, he disappears, 100 years later, the scripture is written. And therefore, there were a lot of controversy in what was written in the scripture. And so there's some right stuff and there was some stuff which was added onto it. And this claim was never Hazrat Isa, because there's a discussion in Quran. Hazrat Isa والسلام, Allah questions him, "Oh Isa, is it you who have told people to consider you to be our son?" Hazrat Isa responds by saying, "Oh Allah, you know what I say and what I think. How can you even put that to me, that I'm the one who's going around telling people to consider me to be your son?" Subhanallah, he utters these words. These are the ayat of Quran. So Prophet, when he indulged into this conversation, Prophet does not just shun this away, this argument that, okay, we're not going to listen. Prophet tried to convince them, and he convinced them by giving them example. When they said that Jesus was not just servant of God or a messenger of God, he was rather the Son of God. But if you said that he was the servant of God, then who was his father? Tell us who's the father of Jesus. Prophet right away recited this ayat. Inna mathala Isa indallahi ka mathali Adam خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. The example of Isa in the sight of Allah is the example of Adam, whom Allah created with turab, with sand, and then he said, kun, and it be. So if you are saying that Hazrat Isa was born without a father, at least he had a mother, then what do you say about Hazrat Adam, who was born without a father and as well as without a mother? Now, Hazrat Adam is referred to as Turab. Ali ibn Abi Talib is referred to as Abu Turab. The event of Mubahala is so important, for the following few reasons. Number one, it proved to be the silencing lesson for all the Christians of Arabia who no longer dared any competition with the Holy Prophet. So you don't see, many wars taking place between Islam and Christianity. Those Salebi cross wars that are mentioned later on in the era of the Abbasid rulers, that has nothing to do with the Holy Prophet. The invitation of Mubahala was directed by God, and it followed his command that the Holy Prophet took his Ahlul Bayt along with him to the field of Mubahala. So Prophet is not just choosing, these people randomly. It is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The necessity and the indispensability of Amirul Mu'mineen, Hazrat Fatima al-Zahra, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, alayhim as-salatu was-salam, in following the sayings of the Holy Prophet could no longer be disputed. These individuals, there's no one above them, because they are the ones who are standing along with the Holy Prophet when it comes to defeating, this tactical war. It's not a war of arms. Rather, it is a war that has to be won over the haqqaniyat and the reality of the religion of Islam. Other wars were maybe done because of the territorial wars, or, taking control of one land or another land. For example, conquest of Mecca, when the Muslims came back and they conquered the city of Mecca, or the Battle of Badr over certain issues, or Uhud, for example. But this war was for the haqqaniyat and the righteousness or the reality of the religion of Islam. So Prophet does not bring anyone except those who are the most confident of the Holy Prophet, those who are indispensable and the most necessary when it comes to the religion of Islam. And they were only these four, along with the Holy Prophet, making them to be five, known as Panjatan. That notwithstanding their childhood, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, did nevertheless serve as the active partners of the Holy Prophet in the field of Mubahala. While one may be 6 years old, the other one may be 7 years old, yet they were active partners of the Holy Prophet in the field of Mubahala. This yields the conclusion that age is no criteria for the greatness of the infallible Imams and Masumin. It does not matter how old or young they are Imams, they are infallible, they're Ma'asum, and no one could be compared with them. But we find right after the wafat of the Holy Prophet, the same Hassan and Hussein, when they're there to go ahead and side with their mother as proof and as witness, their witness is disregarded. And lastly, that the Holy Prophet's act of having preferred a few obviously elevates their status above all others. Now, these things are not for us. We already know the status of Ahlul Bayt. This is for others to realize and understand that this important event, which is documented in the books of history, well documented in the books of history, just shows you how important as far as the truthfulness of the madhab-e tashayyu is. Mubahala is the biggest proof of the truthfulness of madhab-e tashayyu. Sheikh Mufid says God commands in this verse that Ali is nafs Rasul. And since no one is more virtuous than the Prophet, likewise Ali possesses the highest of the ranks of virtuousness and shares the same status with the Prophet for being his nafs. That's why you have that riwayat from the Holy Prophet in which he said, Man arada an yandura إلى آدم في علمه وإلى نوح في تقواه وفهمه وإلى إبراهيم في حلمه وإلى يحيى بن زكريا في زهده وإلى موسى في هيبته وإلى عيسى في إبادته فلينظر إلى علي ibn Abi Talib or إلى وجه Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sheikh Mufid narrates that he says this hadith from the Holy Prophet in which he said, whoever wishes to look at Adam and his immense knowledge and Nuh alayhi wasalam and his piety and his taqwa and his understanding and Hazrat Ibrahim and his forbearance, Hazrat Yahya and his zuhud and asceticism, Hazrat Musa his haybat and his jalal, and Hazrat Isa his ibadat and his worship, then look no further than the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib, because you will find all of them to be present in the form of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This was a display of the honor of Islam. The event of Mubahala proved the honor and the truthfulness of Islam upon everyone, and moreover the righteousness of Prophet's claims as the friend and the Prophet to friends and enemies. So this was something which was, there's no doubt about it. This ayat is actually one of the biggest and the muhkam ayat as far as the azamat and the fadilat of Ahlul Bayt is concerned. Zamakhshari, Sahib Tafsir Kashaf, he says, وَفِيهِ دَلِيلٌ لَا شَيْءَ أَقْوَى مِنْهُ عَلَى فَضْلِ أَصْحَابِ الْكِسَى. This has an evidence that there's no one superior to Ashab al-Kisa. فِيهِ بُرْهَانٌ وَاضِحٌ. There's an obvious evidence in it على صحة نبوة النبي لأنه لم يروي أحد من موافق, that this tells you on the sihat and the reality and the haqqaniyat of the nubuwwat of the Holy Prophet, and that everyone has narrated this from the muwafiq and mukhalif, and they all have come forward with the same thing. Enemies of Islam were openly humiliated. This event proved that any defiance, opposition against this religion will result in humiliation. Asqaf Najran said this upon seeing the Holy Prophet and his family. One of the Mufassirin in Tafsir al-Baydawi, he mentions this. He says, when he saw these faces coming, he said, Ya ma'ashara al-Nasara, إني لأرى وجوها لو سألوا الله أن يزيل جبلا من مكانه لأزاله بها فلا تباهلوا فتهلكوا. He said, oh Christians, indeed I see faces along with the Holy Prophet. If they were to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to move a mountain from its place, by God that mountain will move. Therefore don't do mubahala with them, otherwise you will be killed, otherwise you will be destroyed. So with that just brief explanation and understanding, we find how important this event was and how important this Eid is for us. Therefore let's come together and before the month of Muharram al-Haram to go ahead and use this mubahala, which proves not just the haqqaniyat of the religion of Islam, but also proves the haqqaniyat and the reality of the sect madhab tashayyu, which is the essence of Islam as mentioned with this event. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and the ability to be able to learn from this event and to be able to explain this event to others as well. This is the greatest victory of Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of those people who have come with hajat tonight, with the blessing of this day, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of their hajat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and follow the commands and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our awaiting Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. At this moment, I will ask to go ahead and recite the ziyarat. Brother Ahmed.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلطان والحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك وتحت لوائك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل